said to kill the bear barehanded so the people won't forget it. Getting money for I was legal to drink. I care what a broke nigga think.
Just like the pack of Lewis.
Look, everything I do so cold. I can do this, both eyes closed. Too short, I stay on my toes. About that guap boy, anything goes. Help the bear if we outside. Help the bear if we outside. Still tipping, baby, nothing changed. I'm still grinding over here, yeah. Still sliding through my own lane. Shorty, nothing funny over here. Dollars rain everywhere around me. Dream to get money. Made it through the storm, living sunny. Dreams came true, now we eating. I got more dreams to chase, gotta reach them. Trying to put a team together like the Hunger Games. Everybody grind together, we all came from hunger pain.
That's right, you best believe it. Late Ill Kid at OneYoungsta, holding it down, bringing that street geek and nerd soul. What is up, my people? Today, all year, coming with another wonderful episode of, that's right, thumbnails. We're getting into animation, you know, anime, tunes, whatever it is. If you draw it, we're getting into it. And today, we're talking about Star Trek Prodigy, which is something that I've been waiting for a long time. Shouts out to a very special Trekkie that I know by the name of, this man is not only a lover of the Trek. Well, these men, not only a lover of the Trek, but two guys that I hold in very high esteem. First, Avery Evans, you that homie. We gonna have to get up on the finale of this. Also, big shout out to Robert Jeffrey. Yo, man, you know you dope. All your writing stuff is on point, and I love that you love Trek. So, with that said, guys, go ahead and hit that thumbs up, hit all the buttons, share all the things. It helps more than you know. You know what I'm saying? The marketers say that a share is worth $35. So you can give me $35 without giving me $35 by just using the little muscle in your thumb. I don't even know what it's called, but just boop, boop, and that's all you gotta do, man. It's $35. Thank you for your $35. Now, with that said, Star Trek's been on this roller coaster. Every franchise has, it's had its heyday, it's had some bad times, you know what I'm saying? And I remember I came up, I'll say this, if you're new to the channel, I got into Star Trek by watching Next Generation because basically, when I was little, what my mom was watching is what I was watching. So I grew up watching The Next Generation. So The Next Generation, I don't think I followed Enterprise. I don't think I followed, I can't think of the other series right now, but I did follow, to a certain degree, Deep Space Nine. But the way they aired it was weird, or the way, I don't know, the channels or whatever they had on the channels or, it wasn't really working for me at that time. But I have been able to go back, watch it Netflix. So, back in the day, grew up watching it, but I wasn't super, super into Star Trek. It was something that I thought was cool, but I wasn't like die hard. Flash forward, J.J. Abrams does this thing, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I see what you're doing. I'm not mad at it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not blown away, but I also don't hate it. You know what I'm saying? Just to give you guys an idea where I'm at. But I did like the fact that he was able, and I guess CBS, Paramount, whatever, were able to bring Star Trek back to some prominence in some way, shape, or form. So I'm like, cool, because the more stuff that we had to watch, the better, the more good stuff. So cool, we got it back in the promise. That's great. But then it seemed like things started to wane a little bit, and I was like, I don't know what we're getting. Then we heard about Discovery. And when I saw Discovery in the cast list, I was like, oh snap, they coming with it. And when I saw the first episode, like, I've always been a fan of Michelle Yeoh. Also a big fan of Michael, and I can't think of the actress's name right now. But like the young lady that plays Michael, I've been a fan of hers. Also the gentleman that plays Pike, I thought he was cool. So, a lot of this stuff kind of came together real well. I was like, oh, okay, like, looking good. And when I saw Discovery, blew me away. I still love Discovery. I thought the follow-up with Picard was decent. The story didn't follow what I expected it to follow and stuff like that. So I didn't enjoy it in the way that I thought I could, but I do think Picard is a nice little follow-up. Lower Decks is something that I'm really surprisingly loving, but now we got Star Trek Prodigy, focus on the kids, which is something that a friend of mine and I had been talking about a long time ago. I was like, an animated series for the youngsters would do well for Star Trek, similar to, kind of what Star Wars was doing. You had Rebels, you had Clone Wars, then you had Rebels, and then you had Resistance, and I'm pretty sure there's another one. You had the Lego Adventures, the Freemaker stuff too. So anyway, we hear about Prodigy, and I'm like, yo, finally doing something for the kids. You know what I'm saying? I can't wait to see a trailer. When the trailer dropped, I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. And now we got the premiere. I'm gonna throw it to y'all real quick. Go on and hit me up in the chat. Let me know what you think about the premiere in general, how you're feeling. Because I'll go through a couple technical things and then some character stuff too. Technically, I think this looks very, very pretty. Like the way they have done their models, their color palette, the shape of the ship, the what is it, the Protostar, I think. These things look great in movement. And if every episode is as well animated as this and well modeled as these first two episodes, which is kind of like a little movie, little short film, I am very excited for what we got going on. The characters are unique enough, but also not so crazy that it like throws it off for kids. You have like the big rock, you have like the cool kid, and then you have like the reluctant, pretty girl and stuff like that. So you have that. We start out on the Miling planet, which looks very destitute and also unique in the way it's set back in space. So you have these things that models that are not only like distinct in like the Star Trek realm, but also not so hard on the eyes that I think it would be weird for kids to look at. And then also pretty cool for, big kids like myself to be like, hey man, this world looks interesting. Then I'm going to be honest, the way it looks on screen, and I don't even have like the illest 4K, whatever. I have a modest 4K screen, but it looks beautiful. And that's one thing I can say about Star Trek in general, from Discovery to Picard to Lower Decks to now this. It looks great. And that's one thing that I love about stepping into this world. Like when I saw the trailer, well, I guess, we've already been in the world, but stepping into this trailer, I was feeling what I was seeing, and then stepping into the episode made it so much different and so much more expansive. And just even like the tracking shot that they did was extremely cool. So as far as the look, I'm digging it. I think like the Clippers or whatever. I think the characters that we have, like Dal, Gwen. What is the slug's name? Can't remember the slug's name. And also the bad guy, Dreadnought, which is, hold up, his name is Dreadnought. There it goes. Dreadnought, I think, is a very cool looking type of villain. Like not unlike, any other robot villains that we've had, and even kind of reminiscent to a certain degree of something like Grievous, but unique enough that it fits in this world. And the way he moves around was cool. So the art, I'm there. The animation, I'm there. I'm in no way worried about where they're going from an artistic standpoint now that we've seen it in motion. On the music front, I like it. I like the music and the score that they have here. You know what? I think okay. Star Trek, when I say Star Trek coming back, what I mean by Star Trek coming back is pretty much since the start of like Discovery, because I feel like, and I mean, let me know if I'm wrong because I'm not the most Trekkiest Trek knowledge Trek, but it seems like Discovery is like a new point in the production history of Star Trek. So when I say coming, I feel like, all right, there's your originals, then there's your TNG, then there's your movies after TNG, then there's the lull, then there's the J.J. Abrams stuff, then there's another little lull, and then there's the new stuff with like Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds coming, Lower Decks, stuff like that. And yeah, Andre Atkins, what up, comes in, says, likes the premiere, the animation was really good. Yeah, I was digging that. So since the new point in history, the new crop, since Star Trek coming back now, I have liked the score on everything. The score for Discovery has been incredible. The score on Picard has been great. The score on Lower Decks is like, word? The score even on this is like, yo, it's just this like imaginative, like honestly, as someone who's also a graphic designer and illustrator, they have the kind of scores and music where it's like, I could draw all day to this type of stuff. So I love their scores and they don't let up here. And one thing I will say, kudos to Paramount, CBS, all that good stuff. It doesn't look like you guys are cutting any corners in these shows, whether they're animated or live action, which is why I cannot wait until, what is it, the Section 31 show? Man, whew, this is going to be hotness. But back to Prodigy, they come with such a high level of just music production on the score side for this. It doesn't have that kind of like rinky-dink kids music or kids animated score sound. Like it's like, all right, I feel like they knocked this out in a weekend. They did a good job of matching the kind of soundscapes that they do and everything else. And I am highly impressed. So the animation is there, the music is there, but what about that voice acting? Boy, look, all right, first off, shout out to everybody that loves On My Block on Netflix, because my boy Hamal plays the lead character Dal in this. Yo, Jamal, I was watching it for the second time, and I was like, is that Jamal? Because see, I had not looked at the cast list for the voices on this show. So like I'm watching it the second time and I'm like, is that Jamal? And then I looked, I was like, let me get my Googles on. And then I looked, I was like, oh, Brett Gray, Dow. Oh, I was like, my boy Jamal's still in there. You know, my boy Jamal done went to space. So shouts out to On My Block. If you haven't watched On My Block on Netflix, treat yourself, but also Jamal being in this and just me hearing his voice is just a cool way to do something else in this show, regarding him. So that's something else that I think is cool. So the voice from that is great, and all of his yells and screams. If you've watched On My Block, you know his yelling and screaming is top notch. So him screaming and falling and making owl sounds is on point. And then also just the inflections in his voice, you get a lot of that energy coming through, to the show, which I think leads through to another standout voice in the character of Zero, who I actually thought was also the person that did the voice for L3 in the Solo film, but it's not. But holla at me, let me know in the chat or in the comments, does Zero a little bit sound like L3 from Solo? And I'm not sure if you've seen the Solo film. If you haven't seen the Solo film, then you know. But at first I was like, because I had to track that voice down too. I was like, hey, is that the lady that did L3? Because it sounded very similar to her, but it's not the same person. But for a second, I thought that was it. So That's another that was cool. And then lastly, another voice that stood out to me was Rock Talk's voice, just for the innocence in the voice, the childlike innocence in the voice. And then of course Gwen, who reminded me of I'm blanking on the animated series right now, but the voice of Gwen reminded me of another animated series. But the thing that I like about these voices is that they really kind of breathe a lot of energy into it. Because you're watching the animation and you want to be excited and entertained, and they're running and falling and there's car chases and stuff. And I think they're giving a lot of that energy. But my favorite voice right now might not be it, Jamal. You my boy. Jamal, look, we cool. But who is trying to think I can't remember the guy that plays, and I'm gonna look it up real quick. The guy that plays Gwen's dad, the way he closed out that episode about like get my ship or whatever, that man, yo, the what is he? The diviner. That's who it is. John Noble. Thank you. Because I felt like I knew his voice, but I couldn't place it. So John Noble does the voice of the diviner, who is Gwen's dad, which I'm like, at the end when he closed that out with the whole like get my ship, I was like, we got a good villain here. Now, of course, it's a kid's show, so the villain can only go so far, but I was highly impressed with the voice work from John Noble. And then on the sleep, what's the guy? I'm trying to think, was he in CSI? The guy that does Dreadnought, his name is Jimmy Simpson. I think he was in CSI. I'm trying to see, hold up, let me see. He was in, can I think of what he was in? But I feel like he was in CSI, but I might be tripping. But I feel he was in, he was in Westworld, and he was in, he was in Person of Interest. I must have flipped that. Forgot that. And oh snap, House of Cards. So word up, this what's up. So on the villain side, though I got to give it to you, Jamal. I think the villain side might have the better voices, because of how scary they sound and how mean they sound. Like when Dreadnought comes in to the scene, when Dreadnought comes in and is like, like thank you, Prodigy, we found the kid, or we found Zero or whatever. It's kind of chilling, and you see not only on her face, but you hear in her voice how kind of scared she is for Dal in that moment. So the voices definitely come through. So this is a show that just off of that, I think is not only impressive from the looks and sounds, but also from the actual energy and emotion in the voice acting. And I am impressed, highly impressed. So let's get into the episodes. We've already seen it, so I'm gonna just go on some favorite moments and things that I noticed. First favorite moment is that tracking shot that we got at the beginning, and that little kind of car chase. I think we see they use it, of course, as a way to give us Dal's like perspective and attitude and stuff like that. But they also use it as a way to show like how good the animation is right now. Like I ain't gonna front, man. That animation is like extremely dope, and the way it moves and how kinetic it was at the time was just impressive on all levels. So I love that. The second thing was the way that they showed the kind of like levels, I guess you could say, in the mining community, because Diviner's like nobody gets off this route, and you get to see like in the moment where Dreadnought is sending Dal to the to the surface or whatever, you can see like, oh, there's a whole nother level of miners, and like you thought the job underground sucked, they job sucks too. So it's you're surrounded, and they do it well with the color as well. They let you know they are surrounded by like it's just destitute, depression, and hopelessness all around them. So they do a good job there, and that's something that I like as well. Is just how much they showed how much people need to just leave and get off this rock. But now we know they were looking for the ship, most likely because they do this hold up to tubes and stuff. He was in Nevada. Gold juice, I don't know, whatever it is. So he needs the ship. But also, I like the incorporation of not being able to understand one another and making that link between Gwen and Dahl, where they both spoke English or standard. They both spoke standard, but he couldn't, he's basically like, my captor is the only person that I can really talk to. You know what I'm saying? That laid another layer on there that I was like, oh, that's interesting in the way they played that out. And very, very cool. And then also I liked playing back and forth with the mechanic, and I can't think of his name at the time, of the, like flipping it to make him argue in your favor. I thought that was cool, just having a weird character like that. So, of course, we got our ragtag team, but I think our ragtag team is just as funny, just as fun as any other ragtag team, in a kid's show. So I dig that. And then I would probably add on the piece of the conversation between Dreadnought and Gwen after the guy sells them the little kid, or the little cat, the cat kid, the little kitty, I don't know. After that goes down, that conversation is of course, in a child's animated show kind of way, but it was a very kind of pointed and threatening conversation to a certain degree from Dreadnought to Gwen. And lastly, the scene of them flying the ship, of course, is something that I really enjoyed, like this comes through in a way where I was like, we have done a good job of laying the groundwork of where Gwen is at in her life. Feeling like she's stuck, feeling like she's trapped, and kind of wishing that there was something else, another option, something better. And then of course, Dahl being like, Dahl be like, yo, I gotta go. I always gotta be out of here. And doing everything he can to get away. And it seems to a certain degree that Gwen, in her heart of hearts, kind of roots for him, but knows like, this is just where you are. And I think she's given up not only on herself, but also on any possibility of anybody changing anything on this planet. And seeing that, plus the entrance of Fugitive Zero, which I'm sure we'll learn much more about, because having a non-corporeal entity that has to be inside of a suit that would otherwise make you go insane if you saw their true form is just something that's cool. And I think that we're going to see someone actually see her true form one day. But just the ingenuity of the suit that Zero is in, the kind of scrappiness of the engineer that they have, the weird, like, we don't know what we're doing-ness on the ship is something that's very interesting to me and fun, and kind of like a reverent youth kind of, feeling. Do I think that it's like, y'all really got this ship going and like, the whole pew, pew, pew thing, but you need that, to have fun. And I will say, when they got the ship scene going, that was still fun to watch. Pro Star, I like the ship. I like the shape of the ship. It's still not as good as the brother ship from season 3 of season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. You don't know if you don't know what the brothership is. The brothership is bookship from Star Trek Discovery season 3, and that ship is the dopest ship I've seen. I think ever, or at least in a very long time. The way it's able to like morph into other shapes on the fly, and also the standard, like the basic shape of it, and then what it can change into when it goes into like fight mode and stuff like that. Yo, that ship is straight flames. But I do like from an empire. I mean, from a not empire, from a Federation standpoint. Mix it up, but from a Federation standpoint, Protostar is pretty cool. I like the streamlined nature of it. I like how when they showed in the credits, how it goes into like I guess you could say warp mode, how one of the thrusters like rotates to the back and gives like a super warp thrust power. I don't know, man. Look, I'm not an engineer in Star Trek, but I'm just saying that's what it gives. It gives you an extra boost. It's like warp turbo for your ship. But the bottom line is, it's cool. Andre says, I want to fly a book ship in a video game so bad. You know what? That's something that Star Trek could really, really benefit from, as a well-crafted game based around the ships. But I don't know. I wonder, are people into ship games like that? I mean, because we saw, how many people bought the what was it, the Rogue? Was it Rogue One game? Was it the Rogue Squadron game? How many people bought that, man? I wonder how lucrative it is. Depending on that might be depending on how we'll see or if we'll ever see it. Then of course they need a studio that would make it, but yeah, the way that's designed, I really dig it. It just looks like the kind of like the Corvette of or the Porsche of like their ships. Now, of course, there'll be some kind of story behind why that's there, how it got stuck there, or whatever, and why Janeway is there, which we're going to talk about in a second. Or I guess the Janeway version is there. But all in all, I think the ship is very cool. It takes a bit of the traditional nature with the dish and kind of, puts a little flavor on it. So I dig it. I dig the ship a lot. And on to Janeway. Not only did we get Janeway as the help bot or whatever, it seems like she'll be there to kind of help lead them in more than just using the ship. You know what I'm saying? Now, shouts out to everybody who likes Janeway and likes Voyager. I didn't like Voyager. But at the same time, to Voyager's credit, I never really watched Voyager because Janeway, to me, looked like a middle school principal. Now, I know y'all gonna be like, yo, you wrong. She just, I don't know, man. It was maybe the hair or something. It just looked like she was a middle school principal. And I was like, I don't know. I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch this milquetoast mess. Now, on the flip, in this animated series, seeing her for me makes sense because I'm like, oh yeah, of course. These kids need like, a teacher, a school principal, some kind of like, administrator or whatever. So I'm like, cool, it makes sense. I don't know why it just makes sense to me now. I'm like, oh yeah, of course they need the principal, but I don't know. Janeway she's always looked like a principal to me. Maybe I should go back and watch Voyager. Maybe at this older age, I was slipping on Voyager. Maybe Voyager was dope and I was just sleeping on it. But she always seemed like a principal. And now seeing her, you know, on the show, in the animated form, I'm like, oh yeah, this is perfect. This is exactly, makes sense. And shouts to all my Janeway fans though, man. So, shouts to everybody that's like, nah, man, Janeway the truth. I wasn't sold on her. She just, you know, hey man, look, I just pictured her as a school principal, and I was like, why do y'all have a school principal as a captain? Like, yeah, maybe it was her hair. Maybe they didn't give her cool hair. What they did give her kind of like, they gave, you know what? I think they gave her mom hair. I think this is what, and not that moms can't be captains, but she didn't strike me as the mom that can be a captain. Like, she struck me as like the mom that's like helping out for the bake sale. And not saying that moms that help out at bake sales can't be captains, but they're most likely not going to be captains. So, it just didn't work for me back then. But with that said, I do have the opportunity. Maybe I will go back and check out Voyager. Maybe I was sleeping, even though I'm a DS9 fan to the end. Maybe Voyager has something for me. Maybe Voyager does. But in this, seeing her pop up when they say the word help, I think it's something that's a nice little addition to the show. I do. I think it's a nice little addition to the show. And I want to see how this plays out. I really hope this ends up being very, very strong because it looks beautiful. It's well acted. The music is on point, and I'm ready for more adventures in this world and in this timeline. So, guys, of course, with that said, thank you for rolling through. Holla at me. I'm going to holla at you. Down in them comments, let's talk some Star Trek, especially Prodigy. Let's talk about Janeway. Let's talk about Dal. Let's talk about Gwen, Dreadnought, all that stuff. Big shout out to Andre Atkins. Let's see. Tomorrow we have Doom Patrol. We got NERDSoul Sports. Tonight we have Black Together. We'll be talking about some serious stuff. You know, we got some divorce to talk about. But, of course, until then, NERDSoul, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all them places, hit that thumbs up. If you like what you've seen, hit that thumbs down. If you don't, but of course, make sure to subscribe. You got people all up in your face when you're trying to end up a video. So don't mind me.
Spider-Man video game.
Yeah, it's Spider-Man. Yeah, this Peter Parker. Who that?
Miles Morales Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's right. It's Miles Morales. So with that said, gonna leave y'all with PL Parker Lewis, Architron. From us to you, what are we gonna say? What are we saying?
Peace and Anwar High Sign.
Yes, Anwar High Sign.
Parker Lewis.
PL Parker Lewis.
Yeah.
And that's it?
Yep.
All right, then, like you heard, we out. Peace.
I'm the man, yes sir, that killed the bear barehanded so the people won't forget it. Getting money for our label to drink. I care what a broke is bigger thing.
Just like the Parker Lewis.
Look, everything I do so cold. I can do this, both eyes closed. Too short, I stay on my toes. About that guap boy, anything goes. Help the bear if we outside. Help the bear if we outside. Still tipping, baby, nothing changed. I'm still grinding over here, yeah. Still sliding through my own lane. Shorty, nothing funny over here. Dallas rain everywhere around me. Dream to get money. Made it through the storm, living sunny. Dreams came true, now we eating. I got more dreams to chase, gotta reach them. Trying to put a team together like the Hunger Games. Everybody grind together, we all get hunger.